on the nutrients. But
we do have a few that are sediment / turbidity.
gotcha.
Okay, yeah, great discussions. Well, thank you, Jason, for the insightful talk. Yeah, so I think, Dave, are you going to take over and talk about the inspiration section?
Yeah, I can do that. We'll just kind of we can go over the stuff from last week in the conversation with Ryan. And if anybody has more questions, comments from that, we can discuss that. If not, we'll close a little bit early. If we have any more questions from for Jason, of course, they can come up as well, as long as Jason's willing to stay on the line. So last week we had Ryan North with One Big Happy Home, and he was talking about some of the concerns about foster health, foster treatment, and then how how youth's brains mature at a different rate, and then kind of how to reframe kind of our objectives sometimes in what we're trying to achieve, and realizing that there's a number of things that we take for granted sometimes, that if somebody isn't brought up in such a way, they may not have the opportunities to deal with emotions in the same way, and their emotional maturity takes a while to develop. So one of my desires in this field right now is, I think we have an opportunity in this field where the Biden-Harris administration is looking for examples of climate core conservation programs. And part of those climate core conservation programs will be trying to produce opportunities for work for young people to be able to kind of help them develop skills and then be available in the workforce related to climate activities. So in some ways, it will be a little bit akin to what the Civilian Conservation Corps was back in the 30s and 40s. So one of the thoughts that we have in Fort Collins is developing a program like this, and basically working with some of the at-risk groups in Fort Collins. And one of the big at-risk groups right now is emancipated foster care kids. So kids that turn 18, become emancipated, graduated high school, and then get kicked out of the foster care program. And we'd like to set up a work program where we can teach, give kids that opportunity a special chance to be able to learn how to operate construction equipment, look at rivers, streams, wetlands, and then be able to mentor them for a couple of years in a GAP program until hopefully they're able to say, hey, I want to go back to school and become an engineer or a scientist, or I want to stay in the construction field and operate equipment. So that's kind of the thought, and that's where that's one of the exciting parts of where Ryan's coming from, trying to inform us a little bit about what it looks like to come alongside people and offer assistance in this foster care program if we're given an opportunity. So with that, if anybody has any comments from last week's talk or anything else you want to discuss, we can. And if not, then we can close early. So
I attended a talk by Kim Marston this week, or last week actually, and he had something that kind of rang true, and he had a lot of data, objective data on life stages and when people go through those life stages. And he made a real convincing case. He's a sort of this demographic researcher of sorts, and he's trying to talk. He was more aimed his discussion towards passing on our professions or skills to the next generation, and being realistic of where the next generation is in their life stages. And he made a real convincing case. And I saw this before, but I haven't ever seen the data behind it. Which I know I'm leaving out the best part with his comment, but I was very impressed how that it is. You could almost put a number on the delay in life stages. So about your birth age minus about 5 to 7 years, and a lot of different reasons for that. Most of them are not because of the people in that life stage, but speaks to what you said before. Some of what we would maybe what I would call delayed development, but it's just really the reality of the generation. And he had some quotes from back at Socrates' time where there was a similar thing going on. And my great grandmother was married when she was 14, so it made a lot of sense. But the delay in maturity or life stages really paired well with what he said. I don't know if that was just in my head, the way God's speaking to me these days, but I know I've had the fault of asking my kids and other kids that I've done some teaching to do some things that they're, I expected based on my experience. I expected them to be able to do, but really their experience is completely different than mine. And it was good to see that data. And I wish I had it to share with you all.
Yeah, and this is a summary of what Ryan was talking about last week. Kind of what we're talking about is these are kind of 8 characteristics that we kind of think of people being mentally mature at. And even with my own kids, after having this talk with Ryan, I've known Ryan for years, and Ryan's one of his sons who he was a foster care to, and then ultimately adopted, had worked with us and lived with us in our house for a while. But so I've known Ryan for a while, but he brought this up last week, and I looked at my kids differently. And it's like, well, in some ways, you look at kids that are, and you say they're more emotionally mature, but you're only looking at 1 or 2 of these 8 areas. You're not looking at all of these 8 areas, but you have a value for one of these things, maybe because of some bias that I've had in the past, or just because it's more worthwhile for me to, if I'm thinking as being an employer, it's more worthwhile for me as an employer if somebody can have task initiation. So if somebody has task initiation, they can kind of keep themselves working, and I don't have to worry about the fact that they're finding something to do. I'm going to look at that as being a lot more mature, even though they may not have flexibility in thinking. So I give them a task, and they just keep on doing the same task over and over and over again, even though it's wrong. They don't adjust to the sense. So sometimes I think the way that we grow up changes how we value emotional maturity. And I thought of my daughter, who's 12 and seems pretty emotionally mature. And after this, I looked at my silly son, who's 9 years old. And when I was thinking of, and everybody kind of thinks he's kind of immature, and I thought in some ways he's actually more emotionally mature than my daughter, who everybody looks at and thinks is very emotionally mature based on these 8 areas, just because of our bias on where we think somebody should be. I think that's one of the big things that Ryan had said that stuck with me last week. Is he goes, well, sometimes I just think my kid should be here because I was there, or that's where I think they should be. But if nobody's ever taught them that, then how would they know how to do these? How would they know how to have self-monitoring, or how would they know how to have flexible thinking or emotional control. So. You know, one of the big desires I have in this industry right now as well is that, you know, I think in general, most of us on this call didn't hear about the concept of stream restoration or ecosystem restoration until we were into college or past college. Um, if you have something, if you've heard about it significantly earlier and kind of knew that it was a job you could have, I'd love to hear your voice on that. But I think a lot of people on this line, we didn't hear about this until we were into college. And if we can start to get young kids involved in ecosystem restoration, and basically being a guardian or a steward of the natural world that we live in, and get people more connected to nature, I think that's going to be very beneficial for our society, in the sense that whenever we're looking at something bigger than ourselves or more complicated than ourselves, it puts us in a better relationship to that area of which we're living within, opposed to thinking that we're above it. We think as if we're a part of nature or a part of this world, opposed to thinking, well, I'm above this, I'll just control it, I'll pay paradise and put up parking lot. So.
David, I would throw out there, just at the position and role that I'm in at the University of Oklahoma, and I'm sure I know you and I both know other folks who would probably be willing to do this as well. But if a program like this starts, and there's going to be a next step after what would be an internship or a mentorship type of thing, moving to a university, and there was opportunities to collaborate on a grant program or something to make that stepping stone through, I would be interested in having that discussion and seeing if there's things that we can do related to that. Go ahead.
Yeah, just by chance, this came out because of Ken and Joseph, who work at SWCA. They had this grant that came across, and it was last minute. It was basically, I don't know, there's a half a day left before the grant had to go into the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and it was for fish passage. But we have a project in Fort Collins where we're looking to create a program where we're training youth on how to operate equipment and trying to mentor them. And one of the big target groups is foster kids as they go through emancipation. So we're using a concept of a fishing links concept, which is creating a recreational fishing area along the banks of the Poudre River. And with that concept, we'll have the youth programs. The dream is to have the youth programs learn how to do construction for maintenance, monitoring, and stewardship of these areas, and then also be a guide for people as they come through and they fish the different holes. And you could have a fishing guide that goes through there to start to build relationships kind of in nature. And I would be very interested in kind of teaming with University of Oklahoma on a like project in the future, as we see an opportunity for something like that to come up. I think one of the hardest things is finding a program where you can develop a work program where the work will be there consistently. And that's one of the neat things that we see with this fishing links concept, is that it is going to be even though we're having native ecosystems, it's going to have a maintenance required to it. So it's really neat to start a team it with something like a work program from the Climate Corps concept that the Biden-Harris administration is pushing for. So yeah, let's look at some places where we have opportunities for something, and maybe next time I'm down through Oklahoma, we'll stop by, or maybe if somebody else has been on the line. I know some of my other friends, I don't think any of them are on the line here, have done some work in Oklahoma too. Yeah, I'd love to find an opportunity to do that.
Just on Friday, I had a meeting with Pawnee Nation College, which is kind of trying to reinvigorate the program. I think that they have about 100 students right now, but the new director of academics is an old friend of mine from when I used to work for the USGS in Nebraska. And he's actually starting an associate's degree in natural resources management. And they have a highly incised creek with some low head WPA dams right on their property there at the Pawnee Nation College. And so I think that he's kind of at the ground floor of developing what they want to do. He's an ornithologist by training, but he wants to kind of look at all parts of natural resources management. So
Yeah,
anyway, that might be another cool partner.
Yeah, we'd be happy to kind of look at that and see how we can see if there's any way we can help out as River Shared. I know where Pawnee's at, but I'm not familiar with Pawnee Nation College. But I'm guessing, it's not. I'm just not too familiar with it. It's right outside of, it's close to Stillwater, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, they only have about 100 students across all their majors. It's relatively small, and I think it's actually bigger than it had been. It had been not super active, but with this new guy coming in, he has some big thoughts and plans and hopes. So
Yeah, gotcha. And oh, I can't remember what the name of that river is that goes through Pawnee, but there's
it's Blackbird Creek.
okay, that's right. Okay. It's been a long time since I've been up there. Last time I was there, I was from Stillwater to Pawhuska.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, does anybody else have anything else they want to add? If not, I'll close this in a word of thanksgiving and prayer for the week, and then we'll let you go. Dear God, we're amazed that you allow us to be a part of the restoration of this world. We're amazed at the relationships that you give us. Help us to be truly thankful, and help us to be in wonderment in all of the areas that you allow us to be connected to. Please help us to operate in kindness. Help us to be able to have patience for changes in policies. Help us to have excitement and discernment for times to be able to push policy. We're amazed that you allow us to be a part of what's you're doing here, and help us to live in ever more amazement. Amen. Hey, we'll see you guys. Have a great week.
See ya.
David, can you stick on for a sec?
Yes, sir.
Have a great week, everybody.
Yeah.
See you, Chuck. See you, Morgan.
Thanks. See you. You want to stop recording, David?
Yes, sir. Let me figure out how to do that quick.
You might be able to hang up Paula. Looks like she's probably multitasking.
Stop sharing. Stop sharing. Stop that. And then stop recording. There you go.